It's your boy Verse, and this is Open Mike with OTR Mike.
Chill.
Yo, it's your boy OTR Mike. And let me be the first to welcome you to Open Mike with yours truly. Listen, this is the show where the mic is open for all discussions, no matter what it is, who it is, or where it is. That's what we're going to do here. Look, this is episode 1, numero uno, my first as a solo podcaster, and I can't lie, I am a little shook. It's a little different, man, but we're going to make it do what it do. But look, for my first episode, I wanted to make it a special one, and it was only one way to do that, in my opinion, and that was to have my bros on with me. I refused to start this thing until I got the band back together for my first episode. I feel it was only right to do so. So look, without further ado, let me bring in them OTR boys. Let's see. Look, first up, we got the one with the smooth Billy D voice. The one that's known to keep it Triller. My man OTR Quan. What's up, Battle? What it do?
Oh, for sure. What's up, Parker? What's going on, everybody? Great to hear and see everybody. It's been a minute. I had to get everything off the crate and dust off the little bit of the rust, so y'all bear with me.
Bro, we had to dust your mic off earlier because I don't know what it was doing, but you got it together.
Hey, it took some time, but I'm here, man, of course. Hey, glad to be here, man. First episode. And hey, congratulations, brother, on what you're doing. And just let you know, we there to support. You don't even got to worry about nothing. You already know what it is.
Word. Hey, I appreciate that. But let me bring these other yabs up. Look, next up, we had the DJ at the soon-to-be Good Vibes Lounge. Y'all find out about that later. The one affectionately known as Prince Uche. Look, that's OTR Brandon. B.
Yeah. Good vibes only.
Good vibes only.
What's good?
Is it Good Vibes Lounge or Good Vibes Only Lounge?
Just vibing. Just vibes.
Just vibe.
Just come and have a good time. I don't even know. I ain't got it figured out yet. I'm still mixing and mastering my craft there.
What would it do, yo? You ain't do your thing. You ain't do your thing.
Oh, my bad. Feeling good, feeling great. How are you?
That's right. And look, last but not least, the one who's known as Mr. Laker Central in these Laker Twitter streets. Y'all better follow him if you're a Lakers fan. The one who was the newest daddy of the crew. He the pappy. The man, the myth, the legend. That's Alex. Alex, what it do?
I'm good, man. Life is great. Glad to be back in the podcasting space.
Yeah, hey man, y'all dudes been missing for a little bit, man. But we'll get into that. It's the crew is back, like old time's sakes. It's been a minute. I hope y'all ain't rusty. Cause look, this is what I was thinking when I was putting this together. I'm like, yo, we gonna come out like this.
Look, remember? Nights like this, I wish raindrops would fall.
Man, look, I thought I was hoping we'll come out like that rusty.
Eddie King Jr., a legend.
He is a legend.
Hey, they all the Fire Harbor. They all were legends. Took us some time. They got scattered off in different places, but they all came back.
For sure.
Well, you definitely got the deep voice like dressing.
Oh yeah. Billy D battle right there.
So look, man, I wanted to get the fellas on here to talk some fatherhood, man. That I'm sure we have talked about it before and off the record. But it's a little different this time. At those times, only 3 of us were fathers, and now since then, things have changed. Alex is now a proud father. Congrats to him. So, how I just want to ask, like, yo, how has it been? How do you feel being a dad, man? Like, and listening to us for so long, talking about the experience, yo, how has it been for you so far?
It's been dope, man. I mean, I guess now my opinion matters when we talk about kids and parenting and all that, right? Because before I'm sure nobody thought my opinion mattered. Uh, it's dope, man. I mean, it's crazy looking down and you created a life. It's,
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy. And then you see little things. Even he's 6 weeks old, but even throughout this time period, like little things, like not the stuff where he looks like me and things like that, because he's gonna change. But like those mannerisms already, like he yawns like I do, he stretches like I do. Like that is crazy
It's
to
wild.
see. And I love the dude. Like, he's the most important thing in the world. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna. There's probably nothing else in my life that I'll do that matters as much as making sure that he has everything that he needs and he becomes a productive adult. So
Yeah, it's a different feeling. It's just, and it's hard to explain sometimes. Like, people always ask how you feel. How did you feel, especially being a new dad? It's like, it's hard to explain, but it's just something that, it kind of takes over your body, your mind, everything. But, we're going to get to that later too, because I got a question about just the experience of being a dad. But I wanted y'all on because maybe like a month, 2 months ago on Twitter, Shan had posted a clip that I'm about to play. Shout out to Shan. And I responded to it, and it kind of took some legs. So I thought, who better than y'all to come on to discuss this clip, to see how y'all felt about it, to see if you experienced these things that this gentleman is speaking on. So let me play the clip, and then we'll go further.
Because you don't know that that exists until you go. You like, oh, like y'all don't. They're like, no, we don't even want what y'all.
We're almost irrelevant. Like when you take a new father, into to have you're in the delivery room, or after the child is born. If you really, really pay attention, a good majority of the attention is given to the mother, teaching diaper changes, taking care of the umbilical cord, taking care of a circumcision if it's a boy, feeding, all these different things. That's a nurse mother conversation. And I remember Shirley will tell you, I was like, I'm here, I'm sitting right here. Show me too. Okay, what are we supposed to do? And then I made it a point for both of my sons' lives, for the first month of their lives, all feedings were me. All night feedings were me.
You hear that, man?
All diaper changes were me. Because
Step it up,
you've
fellas.
had that opportunity to be nurtured by your mother in her womb. Now you got to look in your eyes and see, oh, you got to associate this bottle with this face.
They have for their.
So that clip led to Shan, like I said, shout out to Shan. She followed it up by saying, man, it's sad. And then they turn around and wonder why men don't be involved, because everyone makes him feel like a thing, not a person. And I thought, like I said, I thought the clip, Shan's response was interesting. So I retweeted it by saying this. Been saying this, they ignore your ass in the hospital before and after birth, LOL. Right? And it kind of, like I said, it kind of took legs of its own. People commented on it, said other things. We had, let's see, Thali Flavor, shout out to her. She said, all the more reason their partners need to speak up during labor and delivery. I was real big on please include the father as well. So I want to stop at that comment, but first I want to get you guys' thoughts, like on the clip itself. As fathers, did you experience that? I know, Holly, you went through it last. So did any of you guys experienced what the guy was, discussing or explaining? Do you remember it? Hopefully you do remember it, but and do you agree with what he was saying? Quan, I'm gonna start with you, B. Did you go through any of those things, man? Did you feel ignored? Did you feel like you was invisible in there? Did you feel like all the attention was going to the mom? Which I want to preface in saying rightfully so. Like they just gave birth to a baby, so I do believe that the care should go to them. But the instruction on caring for this new baby should go to both parents, in my opinion. But Quan, what's your thoughts, B?
Appreciate that, Mike. Yeah, so my thoughts on that is, yeah, I can relate to what the guy is saying for different parts of that particular video. Yeah, for one, they're gonna make sure that the mother's taken care of because she's the one that has nurtured the birth. You know what I mean? The child, through those 9 months. And so they're gonna make sure that she's taken care of, and you know also at the same time, the father's present, the father's in there in the life, married, not married, that at the same time, that's his child as well. So certain things should, the father need to be included in that. Yeah, like I said, I felt everything that he said. I knew there were different times, different parts where, like you said, for instance, where, they care for the mother. I can relate one time where my guts were churning, and I was like, waiting, like what's going on, like, ready for him to, to be birthed. And my stomach, I had so much anxiety to the point my stomach was just, I couldn't even like move. I tried to get some type of medicine, some type of care, a bed or something. Like the nurse looked at me like, the only thing I could do for you is you can go to the refrigerator and go get a can of dry, get you a ginger ale, and you get your stomach right like that. But after birth, I remember when it came to the birth certificate, when it came to the feedings, like I wasn't, pretty much included. I was there in the sense of listening, making sure that, I was attentive and, trying to see what was going on and understanding, like, once he's here, like it's pretty much game time. You know what I mean? But I also do, when the guy was talking about nighttime feedings, I can relate to nighttime feedings because, I was doing a lot of nighttime feedings. I was making sure that I was getting that time, with my son, making sure that, he saw my face, like you say, he could relate to, somewhat to the bottle or, late night, early morning feedings, things of that nature, getting up 2-3 times when he was, real small. Yeah, I can relate to all those things. But absolutely, it's almost also, well, like I said, I don't know now, because I mean, that was 11 years ago. But then, absolutely, they go straight to the mother. Then you're maybe secondary, give and take, but straight to the mother.
It was 11 years ago for you, but just imagine how long it was for him. So he experienced it probably anywhere between 20 and 30 years ago, and you experienced it 11 years ago. Brandon, how you feel about the clip, man? And did you experience anything similar to that?
Well, first, my experience was a little bit different. But that doesn't mean that I disagree. I think probably the majority of births or fathers, they probably experienced that. And for some of the reasons that Quan already brought up, like, they're going to make sure the mother's taken care of or whatever. But yeah, there is maybe not so much in the hospital. But I experienced kind of like, that battle of does a father matter or whatever. I experienced that after the fact. And that's probably that's a whole different conversation. But at birth, no, it was a C-section. I was there. They were kind of like very accommodating. They let me cut the umbilical cord. They asked me if I wanted to be, on the operating side of the divider, and I was like, nah, I don't need to see none of that. As soon as they took him out, I was there in the room when they, all the way in the beginning, they put the needle in her back to numb her. They started operating on her. I was there the whole time. Took Junior out, took him into the next room. Was like, do you want to cut the umbilical cord? I was like, yeah. There was a bunch of nurses in there cleaning him up. I cut the umbilical cord. But Junior was like kind of like he was born about a month early. He was premature and he was having trouble keeping his own body weight. Body temperature. So he had to be in the ICU for at least a week or so, a week or two. I don't one or the other. And during that time, I would go to work and I would come back, and you have to feed. He has to be fed often. Like I think it was like every 2 hours or something like that. And so during those feedings, he would be up in ICU. She would be, in another area of the hospital. I would be there for those feedings, or as many as I could make, to the point where they were like, "Dad, you don't have to be here for all of the feedings." And I'm like, "I want to be here for all the feedings." You know what I'm saying? My child is in the incubator. I'm a little bit nervous. I mean, chances are he's going to come out okay. But anytime you see your child in ICU, you get a little bit nervous. But I was very. I would like to think that I was proactive in the hospital. Like you didn't have to say, "Hey, you can tell the dad too." Like I'm standing right next to you. Like you could tell I'm here listening. You know what I'm saying? And when we brought him home, it was just like the guy said. It was like I wanted to be in contact with him as much as possible. I mean, she just did the heavy lifting as far as carrying the baby for 9 months, giving birth or whatever. Now it's time for the father to step in. So and the baby needs that connection. So I do agree with all of that. But again, my experience was a little bit different, but I could definitely see that happening to most fathers.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, Alex, you obviously went through this last, or you most recently went through it. So did you experience any of this, and how do you feel about the clip and the things that he said about it?
No, I think that what he experienced, I'm sure there are a lot of black fathers that experience kind of being neglected throughout the pregnancy process and giving birth. Mine was more like Brandon's. One, I made it a point to go to every single doctor's appointment Shanae had, the monthly one, then every other week, then bi-weekly. I mean, then every week. I only missed one, but I was there at every single one. Um, and so, like the obstetrician that we picked, like for 9 months they knew who I was. It wasn't like while I was working and then I just showed up the day she was going to give birth. So I was proactive also. I was adamant that I was going to be there at every single one. And throughout that process, I mean, her obstetrician, I mean, our first meeting, the black lady was like, she's obviously talking to Shanae, but she's like, all right, Dad, like, what do what questions do you have? Like, she was very much like, it's not just about your wife going through this. You're going through this too. So she was very good about that. Only one time in all the visits leading up to the birth did there was some weirdness. Like one of the nurses came in the room and didn't speak to me at all when we were one of our doctor's appointments. And, Shanae noticed that also. And, my thing is not, when you have a child, everyone's relationship situation is going to be different. But I'm her husband, I'm his father, and I'm paying most of these bills. Acknowledge me when you walk in the room. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not yo off the street. Like, husband, father, and I'm paying these bills. At least speak. Obviously, take care of my wife. God knows I want her to be safe. But, like, at least acknowledge me. So, but it only happened one time with not our obstetrician, but one of the nurses. And then in the hospital, I mean, they were good with keeping me updated. Like we were there 5 days. I was in the room with her. Like she also had to have a C-section. I was in the operating room when they pulled him out. Like, they asked me to go with them to the next room with him. And I asked Shanae, was she okay? Did she need me to stay? She told me to go with him. They were encouraging me to cut the umbilical cord. I couldn't do it. I can't. It's just not for me. I couldn't cut it. But they were like, they treated me pretty well. I have to say, like, but I don't know if that's because I was proactive from Jump Street and showing up to all the appointments, right? Like, I don't know, but my experience was not like his. But I realized that there are a lot of men, especially black men, who probably don't get treated the way that they should. but it is all about the woman and the child, the mother and the child. Like you got to make sure they're safe. And then even on like the feedings and things like that, like, I was gonna say we, but not we. Like she was breastfeeding, so like there was nothing to teach me about breastfeeding like that. What we weren't using bottles. Um, I thought they treated me well, and it's just, I feel bad for any father that did not feel like he was an equal in that situation.
Yeah. So, I mean, y'all touched on a couple points that I want to get back to, but just from my experience, right, and the reason I responded the way I did, so I too went to all the doctor's appointments, right, and I might have missed one or two, but I tried to make sure I was there. It's almost like, and I think you and I talked about this, Alex, when you were going through it, like it's almost like, I guess, no man's land when you get in there because you like the only dude in there. You
I
know what
think
I'm
I
saying?
hit you about that. Like there was
Yeah.
throughout the 9 months, I can count on one hand how many times I saw another father.
Yeah.
So like that's a problem in itself, right? Like you can't complain that we're not treated as equals and you not coming to the appointments. I realize
I
people have
agree.
jobs and their situations are different, right? Like all respect to men who got to work and can't be at the appointments, but you certainly can't complain if you ain't showing up. Like you was there for that 3 minutes or 30 minutes or 3 hours making it. You better be there for them damn appointments. That's how I looked at it.
Yeah. And so it is kind of, I mean, you do feel, I guess, proud to be in there and showing
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm here. You know what I'm saying? But you do look around and you like, shit.
Yeah,
I
she's
ain't
the only
nobody I
one.
can talk
Nobody
about
there.
the game with in here. Ain't nobody, you know what
Nope.
I'm
All
saying?
women.
It's wild
But
because when I was in there, and for the record, I was at every appointment. I made sure, you know what I mean. But one of the things I did notice, I noticed that like where I was at, particularly, there were different fathers there. I noticed, you know what I mean, different races, white, Latino, Asian, black. Um, but when it came to the particular like appointments, you know, there were a lot of women in there, they were knocked up with the bundle of joy, but there were some guys that weren't there. You know what I mean? So, like I said, even if you're there, even if you're in the doctor's appointments, you go to every single one. You know what I mean? You do all that. Like I said, they still walk past you.
yeah,
And they still make sure that the woman, is straight. And which at the end of the day, like
that's what it's about.
that's what it's.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know what I mean. That's
Hell
that's
yeah.
that's that's fine. You know what I mean. I'm like. As long as like you said, the woman is straight, the baby is fine and healthy, we all good.
But so my only issue, because like I said, I went to just about every appointment, and her OB, like, would have the appointment or check her out or whatever, and then we would go to her office to talk. And we sitting in her office, we sitting across her desk, and like, yo, straight up, it I could be tripping, but it felt like, yo, she centered herself in her chair directly to where my wife was sitting, and just kind of looking at her, like, and discussing with her, which again, I understand, because she's carrying the baby, so you want to make sure, you want to hear and make sure that anything she's experienced or any issues or whatever, that you understand that, right? They got that connection. But pregnancy brain is a real thing, and I know that my wife went through it. So like there would be things that she would experience before the appointment and she would forget to say. So, I would be there too. And that was another reason why I made a point to be there, because certain things that she may have gone through, she would go to those appointments and forget to say it. So like, but then there was no direct question to me. Like, now we had one OB that was her main one, but then if she wasn't there, we would see another one, right? And it was this older lady. We went. Our prescribed one wasn't there, right? So we went to her, and she did look at me and say, "Dad, are you okay?" But our main one never did that, and I was just like, yo, that's, because in all honesty, especially when we got further along in the pregnancy and then, oh, this level is a little raised. So, you're now on the watch for spina bifida, something like that. So you're telling me that my child might not ever be able to walk, but I'm not supposed to be concerned or freaked out about that. That's the part that I didn't like, because I'm, again, a new father, right? And I'm like, yo, I have concerns. I want to know. I need to understand what's going on. So I didn't get that. Now, move forward to the actual pregnancy or the birth. Get to the hospital. Again, I want all focus to be on her, right? But she gives birth. Cool. At that time when she gave birth to my son, they weren't allowing us to cut the umbilical cord, so I didn't even have the option unless they just said whatever, right? But first things first. Now, not that they should have waited for me, but my mother-in-law was there, right? And the way they did it at the hospital is, if anybody left the room, you would have to go out to the main entrance to swipe them in. She just happened to go up to the cafeteria, and they come in and they like, oh, you ready? So I'm calling her. She runs down. I got to run out the room to swipe her in. When I come back, they already started. So I'm coming in with my head spinning because I'm like, all right, what I'm supposed to do, where I got to go. You know what I'm saying? And again, focus on her. She gives birth to my son. I just kind of felt like I was just standing in in the abyss, like, okay. I felt like I was in the way. Right? It wasn't no like, hey, Dad, can you come with this or come over here or help with this? Or it wasn't none of that. Eventually one of the nurses said, hey, when they put him in the little box or whatever, and hey, you can come over here or whatever if you want to take a picture. So I did that. Fast forward to we were there for a couple of days. To the point that you brought up, Quan, the birth certificate. Nurse bring the last day, we're about to leave. The nurse brings some paperwork in. Here, blah, 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 blah. Not paying it any mind. Just sitting there waiting for them to release it. So I happen to open it up, look at it. It's stuff about the birth certificate. So I'm like, well, am I supposed to sign this? And she's like, no, I think it's good. Now, mind you, my wife has had kids in a previous situation where she was married, right? So I think it's different. If you married, whole different situation. I don't think you have to sign birth certificates. From what they were saying to me, I'm not sure.
I don't remember signing.
Yeah, so
My
I
name's
think,
on there. I don't even remember signing.
yeah, I think because you're married, you don't have to, right? So we weren't married at the time. So she's under the impression like, oh, it's fine. Like, never had to do that before. Just by the luck of the draw, I asked. And I was like, hey, am I supposed to sign this? And she was like, if you want to, and this was her response to me, if you want to be recognized as the dad. And I'm like, you seen me here the whole time. What you mean, do I want to be recognized as the dad? So that was my experience, right? And it leads me to another question for y'all that, y'all brought up. Alex, you said it. Quan, you kind of said it. Do you think the treatment is a little different for those couples that are married versus the ones that aren't? Now, I think myself, Quan, and Brandon, y'all weren't married at the time. So do you remember any situations with the birth certificates? And do you feel like you would have gotten a different treatment if you were married versus not being married?
Now that I think about it, no, I don't remember. I just remember spending a lot of time in the hospital with Junior, to be honest with you right now. I'm pretty sure I did sign the birth certificate, but I think I don't know. I think it may be a little bit different if married couples, if the couples were married, we might have been treated differently. Again, like I said, I didn't have that same experience.
Not the woman, because she's going to get treated that way.
Yeah, regardless. Yeah, whether okay, so whether the father would, I'm sure in some cases, but I mean, just like Alex brought up, like, yo, and Quan brought up, like, yo, you go to these appointments and you don't see many fathers there. Nia, she's a nurse, and the story she told me about some of the fathers that come in, they don't know how to spell their child's name, they don't know their child's birthday. They asking the child, they go, what's the child's birthday? And then they turn around, what's your birthday? Shit like that. Or like I said, they she said somebody misspelled the child's name. Like, and then you got, but then there's some stories where she tells me where there's some mothers that are just as bad out there. But I mean, those professionals, they probably see the majority. Either the man's not there, or I don't know. I think you would have to have some type of experience because I think it takes effort to have a father who's there the whole time and you ignore them. That takes effort. That's not done like accidentally. Like, oh, we forgot you were there. No, they're not paying you attention because they probably figure you ain't gonna do shit, be shit, or I don't know. I don't know why why else they would not. But if you're married, I don't know, because I'm pretty sure there's some married men out there where, you know, um, it's like you have a child and the father, they're either providing or they're in their careers or they're doing something, and the woman's doing most of the child rearing. I'm sure there's a lot of that still these days, and maybe the father doesn't know much about it, and it's just like, all right, they're just there, like, okay, she does the majority of the caretaking. I'm pretty sure. My bet would be they see that most than any other situation. The father not being all that involved in bringing up the child and stuff like that. But I don't know. I would imagine, I would hope that it would be different if they were married, because then you would think they'd have a sense of, okay, this person's going to be here. They're committed, they're married. But hey, I don't know, man. They might treat us all the same.
Battle. You weren't married you weren't married. Did you? Do you think, right? If you were, because you kind of share the same similar experience that I did, right? Do you think if you were married, or just point blank, you think if you would have been married at the time, that the treatment would have been different for you?
Maybe to an extent, but also at the same time, people may also judge, and so perception sometimes can be a lot, and so maybe they come in and they look around, and from what they see most of the time, they may not see African American couple, you know what I'm saying, like married or whatever, or they may see the mother, or they may not see the father there. So when they do see the father present and active, and that's there, and want to be, want to know what's going on, like it may, they don't see that. It's rare.
Yeah.
So, but I made sure, like, when it came to, birth certificate, my name was on it. Made sure that, I'm like I said, when he was, born, and make sure I was present. Saying, like, in the hospital, like I said, for the feedings and everything, understanding what was going on. But I do think if they would have saw maybe saw a little bit something different, maybe they would have said something or carried it at a different situation.
So, Alex, let me flip the question for you. Do you think, because you said for the most part, like, you were treated good, right? You were treated fairly. Do you think that that you being married and you being her husband played a part into the supreme treatment you got?
I don't know.
I'm sure they rolled out the plush couch for you.
Now, so true story. They did when we were in the operating room, they did let us they turned Spotify on the office computer, like the operating room computers, and played Usher for us. So that was dope. But anyway, I digress. No, I do think that being married probably warranted me some level of additional respect or whatever. And look, man, I don't mean no harm, but damn it should. Like I said these vows in front of God. So yeah, treat me the way I'm supposed to be treated. I also think that what probably helped was I was showing up at every single appointment. I was there, and I was there. I mean, y'all know how I feel about my dad. Like he wasn't there, so I made sure that I'd be there for Jaden before he came out the womb and once he's been out. So they saw me. So, like Mike, I think we were texting because like over that 9 month period, I can count on one hand how many times I saw another man, right? And it was less black men in there than overall men. So imagine if you're a doctor or a nurse for 10 years and every day you in there, like imagine how few black men you actually get to see or married black men that come in there. So it shapes your perception. People have different circumstances. Some people have to work. They just can't go to these appointments, and that's okay. But I think that just being there every day, and even some of my white colleagues, like they were surprised at how often I was at their appointments. They were surprised at how long I took off from work. Like it was a shock to them. Like, yo, she ain't pushing out a baby. I'm going back to work on Monday. Like, nah, I'm home. As long as I want to be home, I'm home.
Yeah.
And I think that set the tone.
I think a lot of people were shocked at me. I took 3 months off.
You know,
I was going to be there.
I'm surprised. I mean, I guess I'm not surprised, but like, there's a lot of men that they go right back to work.
Yeah.
And they can take more time off.
Yeah.
They go right back.
Well, I had to go back to work. I was actually going to work and going to the hospital, spend the night at the hospital. In the morning, I would get up, go home on the way to work, shower, then go to work, then back to the hospital. And that was the triangle every day. Every day today was out of the hospital. And then when they got out of the hospital, that was my routine.
Mm-hmm.
Get up, make sure, do whatever to make sure he's fed. Try to keep her as comfortable as possible because, they have to produce the breast milk and all this other stuff. They're going through a lot of stuff. So just being as helpful as I can, keeping the kitchen clean, keeping the bottles in the fridge, whatever, while she's pumping them out, getting to work, coming back, showering, washing up before I handle them. That was a routine. But yeah, I the only time I was working I was working a regular job at the time, so like I only had so much time off.
Bills had to be paid.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
But so a couple of things, right? With the not being married situation for me anyway. One, shout out to my man, my homeboy TJ, right? He's the first one years ago. He warned me of this before my son was even thought of. He was like, "Yo, well, they treat you like you ain't there." And he broke down a scenario from when his first son was born and he wasn't married, right, to his wife, to when they had their second child and they were married. And he said, yo, it was light years different in how they treated him, right? So, I mean, I had that in the back of my mind going in there and like, yo, as I'm seeing it, I'm like, yo, I'm texting him like, bro, you ain't lying. But, even down to like, the little cart or bassinet they bring them in, yo. It said on the cart, it said her last name. And I was like, yo, you gotta change that. That's not his last name. You know what I'm saying? And they were like, well, we usually go with I was like, yeah, but that's not his last name. You know what I mean? So, and speaking to nurses, right? And Brandon, your lady is a nurse, and she probably can co-sign or give us some more and enlighten us on this. But a couple of them have told me that, the assumption, right, whether it's right or wrong, the assumption is if they see a man in there and there's no paperwork stating that Mr. and Mrs. Parker or whatever, that they function as if the lady is single, right? The woman giving birth is single. And they say that happens because in that I explained to how like the nurse didn't explain anything to me about the birth certificate situation, which could have been costly because if we'd have left that hospital without me signing the birth certificate and then me later on going to try to get my name on the birth certificate would have been a whole other situation, would have cost money, etc. I was told by another nurse that they have seen situations where you got multiple people claiming to be the father, right? And it turns into fights, arguments, breakout, hospital going down, Royal Rumble hospital in the hospital. So they're kind of taught to kind of ease off of that, right? Again, they got a job to do. I get it. But if you see me sleeping on that hard ass couch for 3 to 5 days, I ain't doing that if I ain't planning on being here, if this ain't my son. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's a little bit of give and take there. But again, I understand that they have jobs to do. So,
They
we'll
also
keep go
they
out.
do try to like if they also try to make sure that like if you're I guess if you're not married that the boyfriend or whatever he is, whatever the relationship structure is, that he's not like coercing the mother or
Right.
abusing her. Like they have little cues that they give to the women to kind of give let the nurses know if something's going on wrong, like if he really shouldn't be there. So I do think that they're trying their best to like look out for the mother's best interest and the baby's best interest. But
Yeah,
I
so
I don't discredit any man saying that he felt like he was kind of ignored.
right. So let's go through some of these comments that, I kind of stirred up by me retweeting what Shan posted and see what your thoughts is. So first, I had played this one earlier, right? But, basically in a nutshell, Miss Diley Favorites is basically saying that it should be on the partner. So do you guys think that if you are feeling like they're ignoring you, that it's on your spouse or your significant other to say, hey, can you bring the dad in on this conversation?
Okay, so what happens if you do that and then they still ignore you? Do you have to do that again, or do you?
I'm saying that that's your lady, right? If you feeling like you're being ignored, right, and you kind of telling your lady like, man, they ain't even telling me, or she realizing it, right?
Mm.
Do you think it should be on your lady to tell the doctors to, hey, you need to include him in these conversations as well?
Shit, I mean, she pushing out a baby. I you know what I'm saying? Like
That's what I was gonna say. Doing delivery and
yeah, you know what I mean. I think that's the last thing she think about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if of course, I'll speak up and be like, hey, look, I need to be incorporated.
Right.
If I feel as I'm being ignored, or I'm not being a part of, and what's going on. But yeah, she pushing out children. So
Yeah, you think your lady should be more vocal in making sure you're incorporated if the situation is being ignored.
no, I mean, like I said, I'll speak up. I'll say something.
I think it's like a matter of like if they being like rude or disrespectful with it, like trying to be blatant with you ain't here, like they like you said, they got the chair facing straight towards the mother and just looking at him like this, and you sitting right there, and you ask a question, and they might they either don't answer it or they don't look at you when they answer it, and then it's like, all right, dude, what's your problem? All right, I'm here too. But other than that, like I'm there soaking up all the information. You know me. If I have a question, I'm gonna ask it.
Yeah.
Whether you looking at me or not. Now, if like I said, if you ignore my question, because I'm gonna speak with a clear voice, I know you're gonna hear me. Then at that point, it's like, all right, I'm the father. Include me. But I don't know.
What about you, Holla? You think it's that your spouse should play a part on speaking up in those situations?
I mean, one, it depends on if she's comfortable enough to do so, and if she's in delivery, at least in labor and having pains and stuff. Like the last thing I need her to do is to be arguing with the nurse because the nurse ignored me. Like that's in the grand scheme of things. Let me set my ego aside for a second, and you let your wife or your spouse get through labor and delivery. But if like things are calm and she's not feeling a lot of pain or actually in active labor, like there's nothing wrong with her saying something, but it's everybody's situation is going to be different. So it just depends on the couple.
Okay, so here's the opposite of that. Dr. Hype Williams. Dr. Hype Williams said, I like this guy. He didn't stand there and wait for an invitation to a parent. He insisted on joining. Most dudes in that moment just stand there, do and say nothing, just stand there. Fam, join in, and that's your kid. So, yeah, thank you. So, in that situation, right, do you agree with her? Is it on us to speak up and say, hey, y'all kind of leaving me out. I need to be involved in this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just as a man in general, anything that has to do with the well-being of your family, it is your responsibility to speak the hell up if something's not clear, something that's critical. You want to make sure that you're clear on things. How if you have questions on how to handle something, you need to figure that out. And if you don't know, you need to speak up. Like just in general, as a man, you need to do that. So yeah, it is on us.
Battle. You think it's on us
Yeah,
to speak up?
yeah. I mean, it ain't gonna, it ain't gonna happen unless you speak up on it, and it ain't gonna be her job or her responsibility to do it. So, yeah, not saying it always happens or it's always done like that, but yep.
Yeah, I mean, Hal, I think you can speak on this if you want, but I think we all kind of agree. You kind of said that if we feel a certain way, we need to jump in
Mhm.
there and let that be known. Um, so then there was willpower for food. This is his response to my response. Big facts, bro. Just went through this a year ago. Never felt more invincible in my life. They owe and you to oh they owe and you too, Dad, me to death the whole hospital stay. So hey man, it's a real thing. And then the homie Mike from One Mike podcast said, I mean, he's not wrong, but I also didn't do anything. Like I feel like they should be talking to her because I ain't done anything this entire time. Which again is true, right? Um, and I responded to Mike eventually saying, basically saying, look, yeah, but you being a new parent, me being a new parent without experience, like at the end of the day, when we go home and they're still recovering, a lot of it falls on us to hold it down for a couple of days until they feel up to themselves. So it's important that we know and understand what's going on. Um, but that leads me to the next topic. There's an article or study that was supposedly done that said this. A new study reveals a man's brain changes when he becomes a father. It went on to say basically that dad brain is a real thing. A new study is breaking down how a man's brain goes through hormonal changes once they have a child. The new study, published in the Journal of Cerebral Cortex, outlined how a man becoming a father transforms their brain. It literally shrinks slightly. Across the board, we found similar reduction in gray matter, sort of suggesting that the brain was becoming more streamlined and possibly more effective over the transition to first-time parenthood in fathers. So, fellas, battle, becoming a father, man. Did you instantly get dad brain? Do you feel like you became more focused? Do you agree with this study? Now, let me say, the study, I think it was done by over like 57 people, right? So it's not a large large caseload at all.
Mhm.
But do you think you changed, man, at the birth of your child?
Man, absolutely. And no parent that's in the, that parent, I mean, no parent that's in the, no father that's in their child's life, you know what I'm saying? Like, is going to say anything different, just like Hollow was saying earlier, like you realize that like you have someone to take care of, and it's not always perfect, no one ever gives you, a manual, you know what I'm saying? You just do your best to whatever you can do, you know what I'm saying? And you love your kid, but Yeah, it changes and it doesn't stop. That's the thing about it. You know what I mean? The older they get, you know what I mean? The more is required, the more that, you have to think about and do, and yeah, your brain matter change, all of it. All of it. So from the time that he's little, you know what I'm saying, he or she is little, you know what I'm saying, little squirt or whatever, to them running around and to like them getting on the school bus, like it's just it's different degrees of it, you know. Like my son, he's 11. So now he's in middle school and like he's doing all these other things, all these little extracurricular activities. And so like you go from seeing him like you having to feed him and wipe his bottom, you know what I'm saying, and do all these other things for him. And then now like he's coming back like talking to you about his day in school.
That's literally what I'm doing right now as we're recording, wiping the bottom. But
You know
go
what I'm
ahead.
saying? Yeah. So it's just, more comes with it. And just the more that you just have to, like you said, more's on your brain and more, that you have to do. And do your best with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't always get it right. You know, I know it's an everyday thing for me. So, you know what I mean? Like, so I'm working at it every day. You know what I mean? To be the father that I need to be for him. You know what I'm saying? So it's yeah, man. It's yeah, brain changes all the time.
So B, do you feel like instantly you became more streamlined once you became a dad? Did it take some time? Do you feel like you just like your whole thought process, your brain, everything changed? Dad brain, did it set in once you became a dad? After you, Alex, you answer that question why I put a pamper on a kid who took his pamper off while we were recording.
Yeah, everything changed for me, man. Everything changed for me very quickly. I think just by nature, my mind just works more in a streamlined fashion. Like I can multitask on certain things, but my lady will definitely tell you when I have my mind focused or I have a task to do, um, I focus in on that task heavily. And when Junior was born, it was probably unlike any other feeling that I've had. Actually, probably the closest thing to it is getting married. But it's still it's there is a difference, man. But with me, it was when he was first born. It was almost like pure joy, man. Like I don't think I love anything the way I love my son. So that was a new feeling for me. You know what I'm saying? Because you be in a relationship, even you love. Well, I love my parents and my family and all that, and you be in relationships, be like, I love you, girl, but like the love I felt for Junior was just like it was different because it's completely unconditional. I don't think there's anything that he could do honestly um that can change that. So and I had a lot going on at the time. Shortly after he was born, maybe a few months, his mother and I split, so that was a very rough time, and I definitely had to bear down and focus a lot more just for my own survival, really. But I know that the one thing that did keep me going was um, I wanted to be there for my son. I didn't want anything to get in the way of that. And if it meant that the court only gave me 2 days, 2 hours, whatever, I was going to be there as much as I could for him, especially in those first few years. Um, I think like even in mediation and stuff, the mediator was trying to convince me that hey, as he gets older, he'll need you more then, but in the beginning years, everybody, not just the mediator, everybody's trying to tell me he needs his mother more now. Da 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 da. And I never debated that he needed her, but I'm like, yo, he needs me too. He needs me too, and I just wasn't. A lot of people were trying to. I won't lie. I was I was aggressive in getting as much time as I could for my son, and because I felt like that's what I needed to do. I felt like anything less would be. I couldn't do anything less. So just that mindset, all that stuff weighing in on me. Yeah, shit changed. Shit became streamlined. I had to bear down. And by no means do I feel like I'm on top of the world. But I when I look back, things are a lot different. But it's honestly because he's in this world. I don't know. I'm not gonna say like I would have been dead and out on the street or something, but I don't know where I would have been without my son, because I had to mature. I had to get some things straight in my life, and you know, things weren't bad, but I did have to tighten up on a lot of things. So yeah, it definitely it definitely changes you.
Alex, again, man, you are the latest to join the club, man, and I've known you forever, right? And I've known at one point you didn't think you wanted kids, right? And
I
then
didn't.
yeah, and then you and your wife decided to have one. Um, like, yo, do you agree with this study? Like, did it instantly change you once you became a dad?
I don't think. I don't know. I don't think it instantly changed me. I don't. I mean, when a woman is carrying a child, like her body is being pumped with hormones, right? And literally, she creates an organ to support that child, the placenta, right? So it wouldn't surprise me if fathers, our own bodies, our own chemistry changes to some degree. And that wouldn't surprise me at all that we go through whatever changes we go through as we become fathers. Um, who I am as a father these last 40 days or whatever it's been now, like I mean, I was that exact same person as a husband. So now the only thing is now I'm incorporating somebody that can't do anything for themselves yet, and they rely on me 24/7 and my wife. So I don't know if anything instantly changed. I will share though that like we were in the operating room, and when they, you know, we thought we were going to do a vaginal, it ended up not happening, and so when they said we have to do a C-section, I was immediately nervous. That's a major surgery, and you guys may know this. The United States does more C sections than any other industrialized country in the world, like way more.
I
Right?
was gonna mention that, and I was gonna say something about that, and I was
They
like,
prefer to do
they prefer to
C-sections.
do C sections. They push actually C sections because more so of them staying with the women staying more so in the hospital longer. It's money, and because of the medicine. I was gonna say that. Sorry.
I was going to say I heard they prefer C-sections because you can schedule the births now, because the doctors have a lot of they're giving birth to a lot of mothers, not they're giving birth, but they're helping a lot of mothers, and so they like to schedule that shit out. It helps their schedule, so they prefer C-sections. But go ahead, my bad.
Yeah, no, they've during the pandemic, there's been like historic levels of people having children. So even us, like Jaden was due September 4th. He ended up not coming until the 10th, but I think we were scheduled to go in like after he didn't come on the 4th on his own. We were scheduled to go in like on the 8th at 7:30 in the morning, and they called and said we don't have enough beds. They said so come in at 9:30. They called back at 9:30 and said we don't have enough beds. Wait for us to call you. And then they called like around 12:30 and told us to come in. They didn't have enough beds. And then even once we got to the park to do a C-section 2 days later, they had 3 C-sections going on at one time. And like there's just a lot of people having babies. That's just what's going on. So they don't have the capacity. So on one hand, I understand why they do C-sections, but on the other hand, for me, it's a major surgery. So I was terrified for Sinead to go through that. So like, and once that decision was made, like we were immediately going into the operating room. Gave her a big ass needle, and within 20 minutes we were in the room. So like it was like, it's go time, and we went in there. And C-sections don't take long. Like they pull the baby out like in 15 minutes, and then they take a little bit more time to stitch the woman back up or whatever. But like, so we're in there, and like I'm terrified, and I think I'm terrified for a number of reasons. Like, you know, I haven't been in the hospital a whole lot since my mom died, and I was in the hospital a ton when she was sick. So I don't have a great relationship with hospitals these days. So, to have my mom dead and then to see my wife laying on the operating table, that shit was terrifying. So when they pulled Jaden out, like I didn't like they cut her or whatever, and I didn't even know, I didn't hear anything, didn't smell anything, nothing. They cut her, and they just hold him over the curtain, and they're like he's here, and like yo, I burst into tears, like full blown uncontrollable crying, and like I rested my head like on her, like on the side of Shanae's face, and she was all doped up, and she's like, "You're crying." I was like, I can't stop. Like I was like completely overwhelmed by the situation. And like that's never happened. Like I've cried losing my mom, my grandmother, and things, but like that shit was crazy. Like I was just completely overwhelmed. But once they held him over that curtain or whatever, and I would have appreciated, and I think all hospitals should do this. But I think it would be helpful to have black male therapists on hand after the baby's born to come talk to fathers, black fathers. I mean, all fathers, but specifically black fathers. Like, you know, maybe once a day to have a black male therapist to come in and talk to me and ask me how I'm doing and what am I experiencing. I think that would help a lot of men just to have that. So that's me. That's my elevator pitch to get black male therapists in the hospitals. But yeah, I was completely overwhelmed. So I don't know if I changed at all as much as like I have someone that's just I'm responsible for, and I need to make sure that I do everything I need to do for him to have the life he needs.
Yeah, I totally agree. I didn't cry at that moment because I was overwhelmed, but I was almost in a at a stuck overwhelmed, like a shock, because it's like, yo, what just happened? You know, it just went so fast for me. It was like literally being in the Matrix. So it was just like, okay, you know what I'm saying? And then it's set for me. It's set in right there. Like they put him on the table. He peed on the nurse, and I was like, yo, that's my son. Like it's real. Like it's real. You know what I mean? And it's set in for me. I do think I've changed some, right? I think I am more streamlined just because, you know, as all of you guys have said, like you got somebody who can't really care for themselves, and you got to be on top of it. So you just want to make sure they got everything they need. Um, a lot of times I'm thinking 10, 20 steps ahead, right? Like of what he might need later on in the week versus what he might need that day. So I do think, to what you said, Brandon, I am more focused. Um, I think I'm a different parent than people expected me to be. I think they expected me to be, um, wrapped around my finger or me wrapped around his finger, and Mikey, me wrapped around his finger because, it's my first one. And I think if he was a girl, I probably would have been wrapped. But yeah, I guess I do agree with the study. I guess dad brain is a real thing, and we'll see, man. We signed lifetime contracts, man. Whether we wanted to or not, they lifetime deals, and we in it. So we got forever to go, and I do think we all will be great fathers. I think we already are, and I'm happy that we are already there. I'm happy that, when Alex told me they were at that point. When he told me that they were, expecting, I was super excited for him because I wanted him to experience that moment he said he experienced in the delivery room, because it's different, and again, it's like you can't explain it, but it's like one of those. It's a surreal moment, so it's just exactly. It's you'll never forget it. It's that moment. It's not so many moments that that you have that you won't ever forget. But it's one of those handful of moments that will definitely stick with you guys forever. So again, on this topic before we close it out, any advice that you guys have for soon to be fathers, ways to handle if they feel like they're being ignored in the at the appointments, at the hospital or whatever. Any advice you guys have for soon to be dads? Battle.
Enjoy it, man. Enjoy it because they are they're only little one time, and you just take your time with it. Just stay focused, and if you have other brothers that are supportive and have been through it, they can guide you as well, you know what I mean, and assist and help you out, and um just take your time with it and just enjoy it, um and just try to be the best you can be, you know what I mean, and it's not it's a I mean it's a work in progress. There's some good days and some days where it needs work, you need work or whatever, and I don't know, shit, that's the best I can really say, you know what I mean. I'm striving, working every day to be a good father, and do what I need to do. So like I said, it's some good days and some days where you may miss the mark or whatever, but for the most part, man, you just keep pushing and keep being there, and at the end of the day, you just be there for for the child, and at the end of the day, they'll understand it, you'll be all right. Enjoy
B.
life, enjoy it.
B, any advice for new dads on the way?
Man, do the best you can do. You know what I'm saying? Like, put your best foot forward. Don't worry about any outside noise. I mean, that's your child. I'm assuming I'm talking to fathers who have their kids' best interest in mind at heart. You know what I'm saying? If you have a great support system, tap into that. If you don't, you know, hey, just do the best you could do. Love your child. Everything will be okay, because if you do have your child best interests at heart, you're gonna want the best for them, or at least the best that you could do for them. You're gonna make decisions that that you feel are in their best interest. So just do that. And if, like I said, if you don't have a support system, try to find one, because I know I had one. And you fellas, you were a part of that. Especially Quan, you and I, we had a lot of conversations. We had similar situations, and those type of conversations, it helped me through a lot of rough moments. Just to hear somebody else say, "Yo, you a good dad," it picks you back up. You know what I'm saying? So if you have that support system, tap into it. It'll do wonders for you. If you don't, just hang in there, man. Do the best you can do. Love your child the best way you know how. You'll be all right.
Appreciate that, brother. Yeah, hey, it helped me out many a days too.
For sure.
It really did. So that two brothers here to tell you, it helps out. It helps out a lot. So take heed.
Alex, as the newest in the crew, man, what advice you got for a soon to be dad who, may go through experiencing some of those things that we discussed on this episode?
All I can say is, if you decide to have a child, man, they deserve 100% of you. And I said this jokingly earlier to Shanae. We were laughing about it, but Black dad lives matter also. Like, Black fathers matter, and don't let anybody tell you that you're not as important as mom is. Mom does a shit ton of heavy lifting to get that baby healthy into this world, and that should be celebrated. Once that baby is here, you are equally as, and you're important when she's carrying it, because there's things that you're providing, and there's a lot going on that you're helping. That just because you can't carry the baby doesn't mean you're not helping. But being a I'm specifically speaking to black fathers. Like, you matter, and you're supposed to be there, and you don't let anyone push you to the side if you have good intentions for your child. Fight for your rights. Be present in that child's life. If you're not with the mother, do your best to try to make things work as best as you guys can. And if you are together, like, lean on each other. Um, Shanae and I do not have the support system that we're finding everybody else has. It's just her and I making this happen. We knew that going into it. This is what it was going to be like, so we accepted that. And so whoever decides to have a child, just give them the best of you. Give them the best of you. So that's all I got.
Word, man. Listen, that was a dope segment, and I'm sure everybody is going to enjoy that. But look, there's one more question I got that I'm sure the listeners been waiting for this whole episode. This whole episode, they've been waiting on this one question, right? So they're gonna enjoy that, like, oh yeah, that was cute. They talked about fatherhood. But we want to hear this one other question, and you know, fellas, it's time to get to the nitty gritty, man.